Hello, I'm Johnny, welcome to the Ginger Geek Show. So today I'm talking about all things Marvel, specifically their mistakes that they have made, and they have made them. I am a huge fan of Marvel, don't get me wrong, but there is moments where this is more going to be more kind of maybe production wise and more kind of things around the said movies of just mistakes that they have made in the past that is just not, I don't really kind of agree with, and this is what I want to talk about, because I'm not always just kind of, you know, in the bandwagon and just constantly on the leash to Marvel. I mean, most of the time I am, but no, but there is certain things that I don't really kind of agree with, and I kind of want to talk about those kind of points. So as I says, kind of breaking down, this is going to be 6 points that I have on kind of the mistakes that Marvel Studios has made. It is just going to be more kind of around the kind of movies. It's not anything that Fox has done, not their kind of stuff, or Sony. This is pure and simply Marvel Studios stuff. So let's begin the list, shall we, on the 6 biggest mistakes from Marvel Studios. At number 6, dealing with the multiverse. Very much a recent addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the multiverse is very getting going, and my opinion on it all so far is I don't really like it. I don't like how they're just dealing with the multiverse personally. To me, what I kind of wanted is not really what I'm seeing, and I know that's more my fault, but I still don't think there's kind of an issue around it. Now, a good example, you know, Doctor Strange came out and it was fine. I enjoyed it, but I think it could have just been a lot more on how they kind of would have dealt with the multiverse. The fact that most of it was really just kind of seen in a montage, which was cool, but there should have been kind of more of that. And when we actually finally did see a different universe, it was just basically the same, but it was just nice flowers around and everything. I was just like, give me the universe where Hydra won. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what I want to see. You know, it's like stuff like that. I think you could have had, you know, really fun stuff. You know, maybe had like Captain Hydra. You know, bring Chris Evans involved in that. I think you could do some really fun stuff. My biggest also issue is the dealing of different versions of themselves. Like Spider-Man all you want, but Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield don't feel much any different to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. The only biggest difference I'd probably say is Tobey Maguire has the organic webbing, which does feel different, and that's kind of it. There's nothing really much else. Doctor Strange did a kind of no bad job, but then kind of not, because it turns out every other version is basically evil, you know, and he's the only one that's good. But there's just not really much of flavour, I don't think, there. I think Loki did a little bit better. I like that there was one of kind of, oh, what if, you know, Loki actually did pick up the hammer and he was worthy. You know, that was kind of an interesting, you know, kind of version. And I like the kind of comic looking version. I like there is a universe maybe that they all just look like the comic version. I like that. But I just, for me, I just wish that they were a bit more stronger in the multiverse and were a bit more detailed with it and a bit more, just, you know, fun and a bit more, you know, varied with it. I feel like they're still trying to be so constricted over it, and you know, we might get more, you know, I don't know, I'm already kind of done with the multiverse, to be honest. It's just, I think they could have done more fun, exciting stuff with it. At number 5, Black Widow. Now, talking about Black Widow, there is a couple of things that I need to mention. Now, just character-wise, I think they missed the mark, actually, when you look at Iron Man 2 to Endgame, and you really look at that kind of character and what she's done, nothing much happens really, is there? When I think of like the comics and you think of I would have loved to have seen the whole kind of, oh, double agent, oh, I can't trust this character and all that sort of stuff. I wish there was more of that. I wish there was more of kind of her feeling like a spy, her feeling like what she is more in the comics. And there's kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, I get way more from Florence Pugh's Yelena's character. I'm really liking her character. I like her way more than Scarlett Johansson's character, easily, hands down. I just think how they've dealt with the character feels a little bit kind of, Scarlett doesn't want to look like a bad character, I feel, a bad person, so she really pushed to be, you know, more of a good, and I think that's a bit of a shame, because Black Widow character is very interesting. I think you could do something interesting with it, and they kind of just didn't. And then when the movie happened, which was too late, that was another, I think, mistake. It felt a little bit kind of, you know, after she's already dead, and the movie we got felt so, you know, to me it wasn't the movie I was wanting. And I know this is again come across, well, that's my problem, you know, and it is my problem. I would have personally just loved a simple, you know, Black Widow on the Run movie. I think that would have been fine, especially that it was after Civil War. I think we all kind of thought that was what was going to happen, and it didn't, and it was kind of bizarre. I think the movie's fine, you know. I think, you know, in a different circumstance, I think that storyline is fine. As I say, that the only thing I take away from that movie is really Florence Pugh. I think she's the best thing about that movie. Just overall, as the character Black Widow and what Scarlett did with it, it's a bit of a wet blanket, I feel, of a character. I don't feel she overall changes. I don't feel like there is much growth, and I don't feel I get what I wanted from like the comics of what I like, and that whole mistrust and that whole, you know, that feeling of, oh, like I would have loved it, like imagine the end of Winter Soldier, you know, it was kind of revealed, oh, Black Widow was also actually, turns out she's a Hydra agent, but then also it's just because, you know, she was trying to get more information and the inside sort of stuff. Like, they could have done something more interesting, and they just kind of didn't. And now that she's gone and dead, you just look over, you know, that span of her character, and you just kind of go, anything exciting, anything really overall exciting? No. At number 4, all of Thor Dark World. Now, if you're friends with me, you're going to know in my life that I cannot stand Thor the Dark World. Not that I can't stand, it's just so, you know, dull and unimaginative, and like the fact that even Chris Hemsworth comes out and says he was kind of done with the role and all that, and you can see that on screen, that there's just something missing. Like, that movie just feels so, not like hollow, but it just feels so rushed, and just like nothing is happening, and like it just feels so just, man, like especially when you compare it to like Thor Ragnarok, that is so colourful and so imaginative and so out there and so much fun and such like, and I love that movie so much in comparison to that. Like, Thor Dark World is bottom of my list. If I've got like a list of worst to best, easily that's in the bottom. I just don't care about that one. It feels very rushed up. That was a movie I remember back like when it came out, there was a big hoo-ha of like reshoots, and most Marvel movies have reshoots, but I don't know why that one felt like such a thing where they were trying to push so much and trying to do so much so quickly and all that. And the biggest problem with Marvel sometimes always feels like they try and rush the production, because I think they sometimes announce too much and have to keep going, like, we need to get going, we need to get going, we need to get the next one, we need to get the next one. And I get that, you know, but this, it feels it, you know, Chris Eccleston's villain. Yeah, I like Eccleston, but there's just nothing with this movie. It's a complete misfire. It's everything just feels so, as I say, it's hollow, and just, you know, Natalie Portman looks bored. You know, even comparing her to, like, you know, Thor: Love and Thunder, even that trailer alone, Christ, she looks like she's having so much fun. But I think that's also what Taika Waititi does. But that's also the big problem with Game of Thrones. It looks like someone from Game of Thrones directed, because it was Alan Taylor. They clearly just went, oh, that's popular right now, that's kind of fantasy, that'll work with Thor, and you kind of need something a bit more, you know, you need someone like, you know, at least a Kenneth Branagh. You know, the first Thor movie's fine, you know, and I think he does a good job with that, kind of introducing those characters. And then, you know, Taika Waititi's got like at least the imagination and the kind of the world building and the kind of, you know, just the funness of it all, and going for it. And Thor Dark World just sits in the middle, just being meh. At number 3, killing of the villains. Now, this has always been a very long complaint. There was always, I remember for quite some time, it was the villains and the scores were always the two biggest complaints folk had with Marvel. I think the scores are really picked up. I think Phase 4 was really weak in 2, but Phase 3 scores, and even 4 has been pretty damn good. And then the villains have also kind of progressed much better. Like, when it first started, both of those things were very much a weak point. But my biggest problem with the villains, Marvel, stop killing them off. Like, what annoyed me big time was the fact that, like, good examples, 2 good examples here is Crossbones and Claw. Obviously played by Frank Grillo and Andy Serkis. Now, the biggest problem I had was when they first appeared, it was like more of a tease appearance. You know, Frank obviously appeared in Winter Soldier, and Andy Serkis appeared in Age of Ultron, and then one appeared in Civil War, and then the other one appeared in Black Panther. Only 2 appearances, and they both died in their second appearance. And I was like, well, what's the point of like building that up and then only just to kill them off, you know, so quickly? And they're both great, and I think it was a shame. Like, sometimes I generally prefer the supporting villains like that. I still remember watching Black Widow, Black Panther even, like kind of watching it thinking, oh my god, could this be like the only time where like a supporting villain actually is better than the main villain? And obviously when Michael B. Jordan got involved, that kind of changed that one. But it's just, I find it a bit of a shame when, you know, because my previous video I talk about the Thunderbolts, and you know, I would have loved to have seen Claw and Crossbones involved, but obviously that's not going to happen because they're both dead unless they do something, I don't know what. But I think they're going with that movie more anti-heroes. To me, Crossbones and Claw are more hitting on the villain side for me personally in that one, so I don't know if they would fully really fit with Thunderbolts. But it's just an issue that I really quite liked Yellow Jacket as well. I thought he was quite a good villain, even though there's rumours of him might be appearing in the third Ant-Man movie, so who knows. But Ironmonger, Whiplash, they keep killing them off. I'm still surprised even back in Incredible Hulk they actually kept Abomination alive. I don't know, maybe because they feel that is actually quite more of an iconic villain in comparison of them. I don't know, but it's quite bizarre how certain ones did stay alive. So yeah, that's always been a big issue for me, is the killing of villains. At number 2, the firing of James Gunn. Now, I don't want to really get too much into the kind of political side of all this, but back in 2018 when Trump was going, James Gunn was very vocal in his feelings towards that. There was also people who had feelings towards James Gunn, so they kind of dragged up really old messages about him, and Disney saw this and they were like, no, we don't kind of, I don't know, what's the best kind of word? We don't kind of, they basically just fire folk when they don't really have enough, you know, information on the person, basically. That's what Disney does, and they've not done that many times to have the Disney now. So there was a very mucky time where all of a sudden James Gunn was fired instead of really kind of, you know, understanding and kind of, you know, I don't really agree with what he said, but, you know, he's kind of learned from it, moved on, and, you know, people can, you know, no one's perfect and we all make mistakes. As long as you learn from it and move on from it, you know, that's the best thing you can do. And thankfully, yes, they did make up, but I still think there's been a bit of a kind of grey area around it because, you know, James Gunn went on to do Suicide Squad, and it was a fun wee movie, you know, and he did Peacemaker, which I've not seen, but I believe it's actually really good. You know, he went on you know, to do that, and I don't blame James Gunn whatsoever. I would probably have done the exact same thing, because I bet you suddenly Disney was just like, oh no, we could do this, we could do that, and James Gunn's been very vocal on saying that, you know, I'm only doing the third Guardians of the Galaxy and then I'm out, and I fully support him, and I completely agree, to be honest, because I think that was definitely badly handled. I thought it was all a mess how it was done. It was quite an icky time, how it was all kind of dealt with, and quite rightly so. I think James Gunn is just like, I'm doing this, you know, for the fans and for himself to feel like to kind of at least finish the trilogy and those actors that are involved in that, and then I'm out, I am done, and I don't want to work with Disney, and I completely kind of support that, to be honest. That's why I feel like that's what's happened, because I you know, I still remember when it was all happening, and it was a very kind of like, it was quite an icky time round, and once again just Disney jumps instead of maybe just kind of, you know, talking to the people, do you know what I mean, instead of, you know, just firing them on the spot without probably anything of communication probably with the person. So it was I just think that was a mucky time, and as I says, I don't blame James Gunn from moving on from Disney. At number 1, the handling of Edgar Wright. And the clearly biggest mistake Marvel Studios has ever made for their movies was handling of Edgar Wright. Now, I don't mind the Ant-Man movies. I think the first one's fine. I think the second one's alright. But I feel like there's always been that moment. Every time I watch the Ant-Man movies, I always think to myself, what would have been like if Edgar Wright filmed these, you know, because I just feel like he would have brought something a little bit more special, a bit more kind of, you know, he's very much like a kind of Taika Waititi where he has his own style and flavour and thing, but I don't mind Peyton Reed, I think it's fine, but he's got no flavour to him really, do you know what I mean? He's kind of just a paint by numbers director, and that's fine, but Edgar Wright is very much a unique type of director that you want in your movie. And for so long, like they were involved together, and I was quite looking forward to the idea of Ant-Man with Edgar Wright involved. I just like him as a director. I really like him. The fact that suddenly it was creative differences, and like and that Kevin Feige was wanting to put more in. I think it was like the stuff with Sam, with that kind of scene. He was wanting to have more kind of involvement of the MCU. And like, I get it. Some people say, you know, directors need to come into, you know, you're coming into this franchise. You need to respect the fact that they want to, you know, naturally, you know, build up the MCU and all that. I get that, but you know, the fact that, like, you know, James Gunn always kind of says, like, oh, he was kind of basically allowed to do whatever he wants, and it's weird how Edgar Wright wasn't, when, you know, I'd easily say Edgar Wright had a more bigger profile than James Gunn did in the movie sense, definitely. You know, because at that point, you know, because it would have been 2015, so A World's End would have been out, so he's already done the three connected trilogy and Scott Pilgrim, so he's done a lot in comparison to what James Gunn did, you know, so I think it was such a shame that, and I was really gutted, and maybe one day, you know, maybe Edgar Wright might direct Fantastic Four. That'd be kind of neat. It'd be good if they maybe talked to each other. But I still just wish that he did Ant-Man, and I think it feels, you can feel it every time that you watch it, that there's just a missing piece that could have made this movie even more special. So that's my list of the biggest mistakes of Marvel Studios. I'd like to know what you guys think. Please comment down below and tell me your kind of thoughts. Do you have like mistakes that's happened in the kind of production or even in the movies that you just don't really like and how it was dealt with? I would love to know. So as usual, please like, share and subscribe. That would be very kind of you. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter on the Ginger Geek 92. More videos in the future. So until then, see you later.